Traveling is all about creating memories, exploring new places, and living life to the fullest. But sometimes vacations can take a dark and unexpected turn, leaving behind stories that chill us to the core. In this second part of our series, we dive into 5 more unsettling and downright disturbing cases where tourists met tragic and mysterious ends. From shocking twists of fate to eerie encounters, these stories remind us that even the most exciting adventures can hold hidden dangers. In 2014, a tragic incident unfolded at New Delhi Zoo that shocked onlookers and left many questioning the boundaries of human fascination with wildlife. Maksud Khan, a 22-year-old man, fell victim to his intense obsession with tigers, a fascination that ultimately cost him his life in a way both chilling and unforgettable. Maksud's ill-fated encounter occurred in the tiger enclosure of the zoo, home to Vijay, a 7-year-old white tiger belonging to an endangered species. On that fateful day, Maksud climbed over the enclosure barrier and into the moat below, putting himself directly in the path of the predator. Visitors watched in stunned silence as Maksud came face-to-face with Vijay in what could only be described as a terrifying standoff. For nearly 15 minutes, Vijay observed Maksud, seemingly unsure of his intentions. Onlookers, frozen in fear, could do nothing but watch as the scene unfolded. Some filmed the encounter, capturing the unsettling calm before the tragedy. Despite the apparent stillness, the situation grew increasingly dire. A few members of the crowd attempted to distract the tiger by shouting and throwing stones, but their efforts only added tension to an already precarious moment. As the minutes ticked by, the fragile balance was shattered. Vijay lunged, grabbing Maksud by the neck and dragging him deeper into the enclosure. Screams erupted from the crowd as the horrific scene played out before their eyes. Witnesses later described their helplessness, one recalling the gruesome sight of Maksud writhing badly in pain as he was mauled by the powerful animal. Panic spread through the zoo as authorities scrambled to respond. The rescue effort was complicated by Vijay's behavior, as the tiger fiercely guarded its territory and prey. It took 2 long hours for zoo staff to coax Vijay into a smaller holding cage, allowing them to retrieve Maksud's remains. By then, it was too late. The injuries sustained during the attack were fatal. The incident sparked widespread debate and media attention, with many questioning the events leading up to the attack. Speculation arose about whether Maksud had intentionally entered the enclosure or had fallen by accident. Some reports suggested he had been mentally unwell, while others pointed to negligence in the zoo's security measures. People were quick to point fingers after the tragedy, blaming the zoo for not having better barriers and emergency plans in place. Many believed that Maksud's death could have been avoided if stricter safety measures had been in place. Others raised bigger questions, like whether it's even fair to keep such majestic creatures in captivity, especially in enclosures that don't come close to mimicking their natural homes. Animal rights activists were also vocal, saying Vijay wasn't being cruel or aggressive. It was just acting on instinct, doing what tigers naturally do when they feel threatened or territorial. Maksud's death became a reminder of what can happen when humans ignore the boundaries between themselves and wild animals. Zoos might be designed to teach us about the wonders of nature, but this tragic incident showed just how important it is to respect the power of wildlife. The sight of a white tiger, so beautiful yet so dangerous, left a lasting impression on everyone who saw the horrifying event. Afterward, the zoo tightened its safety protocols, putting up stronger barriers and increasing surveillance to avoid anything like this from happening again. Still, Maksud's story remains unforgettable for those who were there, a warning about how quickly curiosity can turn into catastrophe when we forget the wild isn't something to mess with. In 2016, a trip to Badaling Wildlife Park in Beijing turned into a nightmare for one Chinese family. What started as a routine visit to the popular safari park ended in tragedy when Mrs. Zhao was killed by a tiger while trying to save her daughter, Mei. The horrifying incident, which unfolded in full view of her family, became a lifelong lesson about the dangers of getting too close to wild animals. It all began with a heated family argument inside their car. May, frustrated and upset, made the fateful decision to step out of the vehicle in an area clearly marked as off-limits. Almost immediately, a Siberian tiger lurking nearby seized the opportunity, clamping its powerful jaws on May and dragging her toward the underbrush. The sheer speed of the attack left her family in shock. In a moment of incredible bravery, Mrs. Zhao jumped out of the car to rescue her daughter. Without hesitation, she ran toward the tiger, trying to fend it off, but as she struggled to save May, another tiger appeared and attacked her. Tragically, Mrs. Zhao was mauled to death, sacrificing her life in an attempt to protect her child. May managed to survive the ordeal, but not without suffering severe, life-altering injuries. The entire incident was captured on CCTV, and the footage is as horrifying as you'd imagine. Park staff rushed to the scene in vehicles, but by the time they arrived, it was too late to save Mrs. Zhao. Her death left her family devastated and the public shaken. The tragedy sparked widespread debate about safety at the wildlife parks. The public questioned why a park with such dangerous animals didn't have more barriers or immediate safeguards in place to prevent visitors from leaving their vehicles. However, others pointed out that the park had clearly posted rules and warnings, and May's decision to exit the car ultimately led to the chain of events. The backlash didn't stop there. May faced public criticism for her actions, with many accusing her of not only endangering herself but also putting her entire family at risk. It was a harsh response to someone who had just survived a terrifying ordeal and lost her mother in the process. Battling Wildlife Park temporarily closed after the incident to allow for an investigation. Officials reviewed the park's operations and safety measures but ultimately found no fault with its procedures. Despite this, the family pursued legal action against the park, though the outcome of their case didn't change the fact that the tragedy could have been avoided if the park rules had been followed. When the park reopened, it emphasized the importance of safety protocols, asking visitors to remain inside their vehicles at all times, and reinforcing its guidelines to prevent similar incidents in the future. While some saw this as a necessary step, others felt it was a constant reminder of the price one family had paid. Mrs. Zhao's actions were nothing short of heroic, but her death highlights the delicate balance between human fascination with wildlife and the risks that come with it. Safari parks offer a rare chance to see animals like tigers up close, but they also demand a deep respect for the power and unpredictability of these creatures. This heartbreaking story has become a cautionary tale about the consequences of stepping beyond boundaries, both literal and metaphorical. It's a reminder to all of us to take safety warnings seriously, especially in places where wild animals are involved. For Mrs. Zhao's family, the loss was deeply personal, but for the rest of us, it's a sobering lesson in the importance of respecting nature and its untamed beauty. Timothy Treadwell, famously known as the Grizzly Man, was someone who loved bears so much that he dedicated his life to living among them in the wild. But his fascination with these powerful creatures ultimately led to his horrifying death, along with his girlfriend, Amy Huguenard. The details of their final moments, captured in an audio recording, paint a chilling picture of their last minutes alive. Timothy's obsession with grizzlies started when he was a kid. He loved camping trips with his family in Alaska, where he'd see these massive animals up close. Over time, that fascination turned into an obsession. Every summer, Timothy packed up and headed to Alaska's Katmai National Park, where he'd live among the bears for months. He believed he had a special bond with them and often got dangerously close, even touching them. While his unique approach earned him some fans, it also raised a lot of eyebrows. Many warned him he was playing with fire, but Timothy didn't listen. He was convinced he could live safely among the bears, and even protect them from poachers and harm. This belief drove him to keep returning, despite the obvious risks. In 2003, his girlfriend Amy joined him on what would become their last trip. The couple had planned to head home on a seaplane, but just hours before their scheduled flight, disaster struck. A bear attacked them at their campsite, and the terrifying encounter was caught on tape. Although the camera lens cap stayed on, the audio recorded 6 agonizing minutes of their struggle. The recording starts with Amy nervously asking if the bear is still outside. Timothy's voice, panicked and desperate, yells, "Get out here! I'm getting killed out here!" You can hear the tent zipper as Amy rushes out, shouting at him to play dead, hoping the bear might lose interest. But things quickly spiraled out of control. Timothy's screams are gut-wrenching as the bear seems to let go of him for a moment. Amy, trying to help, gets too close, and the bear attacks again. It clamps its jaws around Timothy's head as he cries out for her to hit the bear. Armed with nothing but a frying pan, Amy fights back with everything she has, shouting at Timothy to fight back. Their desperate struggle continues, filled with screams and chaos, until the tape abruptly cuts off. The next morning, their pilot, Willie Fulton, arrived to pick them up. He immediately sensed something was wrong. Instead of seeing Timothy and Amy waiting by the shore as usual, there was silence. Then he spotted a massive, aggressive bear standing over a pile of human remains. It was a horrifying sight he would never forget. When park rangers arrived at the scene, they found the couple's campsite in ruins. The tent was flattened, their gear was torn apart, and even their snacks were untouched. Nearby, they discovered grisly remains, a severed arm, fingers, and Timothy's head. The bears had buried some of the remains in a pile of grass and mud, a behavior typical of predators protecting their food. Timothy's death sparked massive debates. Some argued that his reckless behavior and refusal to follow safety rules not only endangered his life, but also disrupted the natural balance between humans and wildlife. Many felt he overstepped boundaries, turning what could have been a powerful conservation message into a tragedy. Others admired his passion, even if they thought he took it too far. This heartbreaking story is a proof of nature's raw power. While Timothy's love for grizzlies was undeniable, his tragic end shows what can happen when fascination turns into recklessness. Wild animals are just that, wild. They're not meant to be treated like pets or friends, no matter how much we admire them. Though Timothy wanted to protect grizzlies and shed light on their lives, his death, and Amy's, shows the importance of respecting the line between humans and wildlife. Story is haunting, especially the final audio that captured their desperate fight for survival. It's a tale that will always serve as a chilling reminder of the dangers of underestimating the wild. The ocean's vastness has always been a world of mysteries, where exploration often means risking the unknown. This was tragically proven in 2016 when a young surfer named Lance Appleby met his end at the Granite's Beach on the Eyre Peninsula. What was supposed to be a peaceful evening surf quickly turned into a horrifying ordeal, one that would end with Lance's life claimed by the very waters he loved. It all began with a simple surf session on the evening of Thursday, January 7th, when Lance, a 28-year-old from Port Lincoln, was out enjoying the waves. The evening had started like any other, with Lance catching waves and soaking up the summer sun. But as the sky dimmed, disaster struck. As Lance paddled back after riding a wave, he was suddenly attacked by a shark. The unprovoked assault came without warning, and in the blink of an eye, Lance was in the grip of the predator. Witnesses recalled the chilling moment. Local resident Jeff Schumacher, a family friend, shared his heartbreaking account of the attack. He caught a wave and flipped off, and then, as he paddled back, he was attacked, Jeff recalled. Amid the chaos, it was clear that Lance had no time to react. A surfboard, found floating nearby, would later reveal a deep bite mark, proof of the shark's forceful strike. Even more disturbing, the rope of the board had been severed, leaving no doubt that the attack was swift and powerful. Emergency services were immediately called, and the search for Lance began just as night fell. But as hours ticked by, the reality of the situation sank in. The search, while extensive, couldn't bring Lance back. His body was never found, and the community was left in shock and grief. As the word of the attack spread, the locals felt the pain deeply. Lance was a familiar face in Port Lincoln, someone known for his bright spirit and love for the ocean. This tragedy hit home for the community, as many had either surfed with him or watched him ride the waves in their hometown. It just hits everyone so hard, especially the locals. said Jeff, capturing the collective grief of a town left to process the loss of one of their own. Lance had been in the area visiting family for Christmas. He had grown up surfing the waves of the Eyre Peninsula and had recently begun his apprenticeship as a carpenter. In many ways, he was just starting his life, filled with hope and promise. His death, so sudden and violent, left a void that could never be filled. The Granite Beach, known for its rugged beauty and wild surf, is also infamous for shark attacks. This was not the first time the region had seen such a tragedy, but it was the one that hit the hardest. As the community reeled from the attack, conversations about shark safety and awareness resurfaced. While the ocean can be beautiful and tranquil, it also holds dangers that can turn deadly in an instant. In the wake of Lance's death, many began to reflect on the risks that come with living so close to the ocean. Surfing, like many outdoor adventures, carries inherent dangers, and the loss of Lance was a painful reminder of just how quickly things can go wrong. Though it was a tragic end for a young man with a bright future, Lance's memory lives on in Port Lincoln, where the surf and the sea are as much a part of the community as its people. Though no one will ever forget that fateful evening, Lance's spirit lives on in the waves he once rode. His family, friends, and the people of Port Lincoln carry his memory with them, and his story serves as a somber reminder of the power and unpredictability of nature. The sea remains a beautiful and untamable force, both a place of wonder and a reminder of the fragile line between life and death. A tragic and shocking incident occurred at a safari park in South Africa when a lioness attacked and killed 29-year-old Catherine Chappell, a talented editor from the Game of Thrones TV series. The horrific attack took place at the Lion Park, located about 30 kilometers north of Johannesburg, on a Monday in 2015. Catherine, a passionate traveler from the United States, had been on a safari tour with friends when the terrifying event unfolded. The lioness, with no warning, leaped through an open car window and immediately started mauling Catherine. The assistant manager of the park, Scott Simpson, described the terrifying scene, confirming that the animal swiftly jumped through the window and began attacking her. In the same vehicle, another person, believed to be the tour guide, was also injured during the attack and was later treated for his injuries. The incident has raised concerns about safety protocols at the park, especially since the park's rules clearly warn visitors to keep their windows up while driving through the large cat enclosures. It's a basic safety precaution that sadly wasn't followed during this excursion, leading to the deadly outcome. Catherine Chappell had been part of the Game of Thrones team, contributing her skills to the Emmy-winning episode The Children in 2014. As an editor, she played a pivotal role in shaping the show's compelling storytelling and impressive visuals. Her untimely death left the entertainment world in shock, as fans and colleagues mourned the loss of a talented and driven young woman. The Lion Park, a popular tourist destination known for its large cat enclosures and thrilling safari experiences, was temporarily closed following the attack as an investigation began into the incident. Visitors to the park are reminded of the potential dangers when interacting with wildlife, and the importance of following safety guidelines to prevent such tragedies from occurring in the future. This heartbreaking incident also sparked a wider discussion about the risks of wildlife tourism and the boundaries between humans and animals in captivity. While safari parks like the Lion Park offer an incredible chance to see majestic animals up close, they also come with inherent dangers that visitors should never take lightly. Wild animals, even those raised in captivity, still maintain their instinctual behaviors and can be unpredictable, particularly when they feel threatened or provoked. In the wake of the tragedy, many are left to reflect on the fragility of life and the importance of respecting nature's power. Catherine's death, while a heartbreaking accident, serves as a grim reminder of the need for caution when interacting with wild animals, no matter how safe or controlled the environment might seem. As the investigation into the incident continues, it remains a somber moment in the broader conversation about wildlife conservation and human interaction with the animal kingdom. Catherine's legacy, particularly in the Game of Thrones community, will live on through the iconic work she helped bring to life. Her talent and passion for editing continue to inspire others in the film and television industry. While her life was tragically cut short, her impact on the entertainment world is undeniable, and her memory will always be cherished by those who knew her.